beautiful people. My name is Nathan Driz Johnson. I want to welcome everybody to Flight School, aka Name Presents Flight School. You know, it's named, so we help you build your brand, find your audience, and always be effective. And today's assignment is why did your music fail in 2025 and how you can fix it. It's a 4-part series, right? Unless the spirit hits me and we go a couple more chapters in, right? I am Nathan Driz Johnson. Driz is like, I have to confess that Driz is not my actual name. It is my artist name, right? It's not the name that my mama gave me, but it's my artist name. And this is my first time on YouTube, and so allow me to reintroduce myself, So I started off as an artist. I feel like I'm gonna tell my story, share my story. Like I've been doing business for about 4 or 5 years. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've worked with a ton of artists, a ton of indie artists, and we do something called an elevation session, and which I sit down and I start everything off by just sharing my story. I think it's truly important. And for those who don't know me, I think it's good for us to connect over story first, right? So I was an artist, just like the rest of you guys, just like all of you guys, just trying to push my music through, right? I was at a show with my friends, and we saw a lady by the name of Eno Savage. She was running a record company called Sound Thought Recordings. I forget what she changed it to at this date, but it was Sound Thought Recordings. She also is an artist. And I saw her perform, and I knew she had a label, and I had a project that I was working on called Soulful Rain, right? It was the project that took my whole life to create, of like poetry, hip hop, R&B. So think Drake before he was Drake. You know what I'm saying? So it was I connected with her. I got her number and I called her up and I was like, yo, look, you did a great job. I'm a great artist and we need to link up and we need to connect, right? And, I got this great demo and I would love for you to hear it and sign me, basically. And she was like, that's great, but no, absolutely not, And I was like, well, why, And she was like, because I don't have room. I'm a small indie label. At the time, I think she had about 4 or 5 artists on there. If you guys see me looking down, I'm just looking at my notes. And she didn't have room. She didn't have room for me, on her label. She was like, I don't have need or room for you. And I was like, oh, but I learned something right before that meeting with her, that I was like, okay, well, what do you need? And she was like, I need some help marketing the artists on my labels. And I was like, so, because I'm your boy when it comes to that. Now at that point, let me slow it up. I ain't never did any marketing a day of my life. Man, I don't forget how this is, I don't know, 2012. So at that time, I was just doing the artist thing. That's all I knew about was the artist thing, and I was going to school and I was changing my major over into marketing. But at the time I wasn't signed, but just like every artist, you want to be signed. You think that's how you make it, right? And so she's like, I don't have room for it, but you can, help with the marketing. And so the next day I came to her place and she had a table full of other people who were like more expert in their field, about 3 or 4 people. And I just sat on that table and I was so nervous, y'all. I couldn't even, I was all like these, what I'm saying? I was like, the plan was to go in there and to learn and add as much value that I could to that table and not get fired, right? So she hired me on. And I was there, and so through those 2 to 3 years, I learned so many great, powerful lessons about business, the marketplace, artistry, what it takes to produce a great artist that's going to be long lasting. We had an artist on there that his touring dates were he toured and he had shows 360 days out of the year. You know what I'm saying? So we learned how, you know, to get artists overseas and, you know, negotiate deals and stuff like that with distribution. It was just so many lessons, you know, that I learned, and that was my, you know, class, you know what I'm saying, in which I learned so much about business and all of those things. And you fast forward to today, and I have my own company. It's called New Altitude Media, and it's helping the artists to market themselves because eventually they end up signing me, and so I was able to understand what it means to be on a label and to be an artist, right? And so I saw how much effective I was when I had a team around me, or I had access to the people who knew marketing, branding, and just how to be creative in the marketplace, right? And so I started my own business because it's like, yo, not everybody's going to have that sound thought experience, right? But I want to bring that experience to you, you know? So if I'm going to do that, I was like, I need to create a company that will do just that for all the millions of independent artists out there, because not every artist is going to get signed, whether that's by a big label or small. That's just the reality of it. But I believe that every good artist can have a career. They just need a team. You know, they need access to somebody in business while they can do the business and then they can do the artistry, right? So that was why I kind of created this company. And so why I'm created this channel, Flight School, is because I want artists to connect with that experience, because I'm not going to be able to work with everybody, but I can teach lessons, you know what I'm saying? I can virtually, and of course, if you want to work with me, you know, there's always a link somewhere, you know what I'm saying? And you can always jump into some DM that I'm connected to and say, hey, do some marketing for my company. And, you know, I'm always down. But this just allows me to help as many people as possible, because my personal mission is to help as many independent artists as possible. That's why I'm active like these classes and putting this thing on social media, putting courses out there. Because once again, I'm only going to be able to help so many people, but through online, we can help as many as possible, you know, millions of millions. And so I want the good artistry, because at the end of the day, I've always asked the question. I asked the question, who is the greatest artist that you know? You know what I'm saying? Or that you've ever heard. You know, some people might say Beyonce. Some people might say Mike. Some people might say Kendrick. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about that is, I say no, or I say heard, because there's a billion artists out there, hundreds of thousands artists out there that could rap Kendrick on underneath a bridge, or Eminem underneath a bridge. Like, they can make clowns of these guys, respectfully. You know what I'm saying? And I'm a fan of K. Dot and Marshall and all of that. But these are artists that we know, and we only know them because they were able to get to a place where they could, their artistry connected with business, right? And so what about all the other hundreds of thousands of artists out there in the world today that haven't connected with business and music? Not just the music business, but business with music. You know what I'm saying? That weren't able to run that bridge, right? And run that gauntlet. Like, we have great songs that some of us will never heard, or we never will hear, because the artist wasn't exposed, that we never heard their song. You know, they got buried on Spotify, or they were a show that never got promoted right, you know, and you never got that product. You know what I'm saying? But that might be the very song that you need as a listener or audience to get you through the day. Right? So artists are so important. Their dream, their vision, their creativity, that what they carry is so important that I want to put some light on it. And this channel will help me do that by teaching artists, you know, how to do it themselves. And like I said before, help me getting as many contact as many artists as possible so that I can help them too. And indie labels, because I want to help the underdogs. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of artists with labels, you know what I'm saying, that need to know business and marketing. They still, all they know is the music, but they don't know the business. So, New Altitude Media, Nathan Dres Johnson. I am your personal marketing and branding specialist when it comes to the music game, right? So that's why I'm here. I would love to know you guys' stories. You know what I'm saying? Let's connect on any social media and let's definitely chop it up. So that is my story, or a little bit of my story. And so we're doing this thing this year. We're relaunching, right? So I've launched my business. Like I said, I've been running it'll be 5 years, you know what I'm saying, this year. Right. So I'm relaunching in such a way on YouTube and even on some of my social medias, on which I'm kind of focusing a little bit more on them, like I said, to be in contact with you guys. Right. So we're relaunching. I was supposed to do that last year, and some stuff got in the way. You know what I'm saying? Some stuff kind of held me down, and I learned some things, and I put it into this lesson called "Why Did Your Music Fail in 2025?" Now, let me start off by telling you this. This is not for the artists, the independent artists out there who is already gone platinum, right? This is not for the independent artist who knows everything and every trick in the trade, and they know how to work their AI and the email marketing, and you know what I'm saying? And last year was their breakout year, right? That's not who I'm here for. You know what I'm saying? That's not my job to serve, which it is. Marketing, I truly believe, is a job to serve the independent artist, right? So my job is not to serve that artist, right? But I'm here to serve the artists who didn't make the goals that they wanted to make in 2025, right? That's the whole thing about this title. You know what I'm saying? You didn't see the increase that you desired, right? And you want to know how you can, because this is a fresh new year, you know what I'm saying? And you have a desire to not just, see a couple streams increase on your Spotify or Apple Music, but you have a dream to turn your dream into your career, right? And so that's why I'm here, right? To serve you as the artist, right? One of the things about, our core values here at New Altitude Media is client first, right? Servitude, right? The ability to take what we learn and to help you become great. That's what we're doing here. So we're gonna do that in like a couple of series, and then we got a couple more. You know what I'm saying? So do subscribe, do like, do share, do comment, and let me know too. Like, hey, if I don't cover something that you wanted to know, like definitely hit me up. You know what I'm saying? Let me know. Okay, let's get back to it. So I call this turn up the bass, right? This part one is called turn up the bass because we want to lay the foundation. I work because at the end of the day, like I said before, we're not trying to just have you have success or a little success with a song. They're trying to help you create a business, right? Every business has a foundation, just like every building has a foundation. The building is not sexy, right? It's not, the structure is not something people write songs about, right? So it's not anything special that people see. But if you take away the structure or the foundation of a building, it will not be able to stand, right? I was talking to somebody else and I was telling them, like, you have to build a foundation in such a way of your business, because you are an artist. So if you are an artist, you are a business because you're trying to sell something, right? So in every business, like I said, has a foundation. So we're helping you lay the foundation here and now. You have to build it in such a way that you can put your weight on it. The only way I'm able to sit in this chair is because I'm able to trust it with my weight, right? And that people who built this chair knew that my behind would be able to sit on it and not fall through, right? Right? That I could trust it with all of my weight. My question to you is your music career, your this career that you're building with a song at a time as a brick that you're laying, is it able for you to put your weight on it, right? Your career at this point, can you put your weight on it? If you can't, check the foundation, because it was like, okay, how did my music fail? Why did I fail to see what I wanted to see in 2025? Check your foundation. That's all I'm saying. Check your foundation, right? And I said, in my theories and my thoughts, your foundation is built out of 4 things. It's built out the vision. It's built out the marketing, the branding, and the product. 4 things. If you have these 4 things, you will be successful, right? You can look at any company and you can look at any artist, right? And see that they have this 4 foundations somewhere that you can't see, because you can't see the foundation of a building, but you know it's there. You know it's there because when you walk into a school, a catering company building, a restaurant, a house, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't collapse. So every brick might be the song you create, but your structure and your foundation has to be these 4 things: vision, branding, marketing, product. Make sense? Well, if it doesn't now, it will. Okay, so let's look at it. Let's look at these things and why they are important. And if I go over time, we're gonna make a part 2. All right, so let's get to it. Let's look at the first thing, like you need to have. I stress this all the time. It doesn't seem like it, because like us as artists, we have a product. We think, I created a song, I'm going to be a millionaire. You know, I'm just going to put it out there on YouTube, and then everything is going to be right with the world. And you know how there's like 5% of artists who do that, and it happens. You know what I'm saying? And half of them getting bad deals, you know? So your best thing is, like I said, you build this the way that, you know, you have a strong foundation. Like, and so the number one thing is vision. You have a song, you have a vision, right? Vision meaning, what do you see? We're talking, and all my clients know this. They know this. They know me. I tell them first, I say, do you have a vision? What's your vision? What's your envision artist statement, right? So that means, what do you see when you close your eyes? Not so much what you see when you have them open, but what does your third eye see, right? Because you can only go as far as what you see. That's in every form of things. So even in our physical, right? The first thing we do every time we get up is we do what? We open up our eyes, right? We open up our eyes because our eyes give vision and sight to our body so that we can get to what it sees. So if we're going to the kitchen, we have to be able to see it or we can't get to it. Just like if you're going to be a successful artist, you have to see it or you can't get to it. You have to see yourself selling out stadiums. You have to see yourself becoming a Grammy Award winner. You have to see yourself selling merch. You have to see yourself being able to quit your day job because you are able now to live this full time. You have to see it because you can't go somewhere you can't see. That's why we turn on the light. So this right here is me turning on the light in your life and saying, hey, there's been a lot of darkness. Now there's light. What do you see? Because I can only take you where you can see, right? And I tell them all the time, I said, like, here, I'm not here to be the leader. I'm here to help you as the leader get to where you see. There is or I should say, one person said that to write the vision, make it plain so you can read it on the run, right? So you got to be able to write what you see it down, and that's what we call it in our artist and vision statement. Somebody else said, like, it's vision engineering, you know what I'm saying? Which I love as well too, because you have to be able to see it. And what's your vision? In your vision, you need to see your destination. What else in the vision needs to be in the vision for you as an artist to be successful? Well, you have to understand the problem. Every business, like every artist, sells or solves, solves a problem. What is the problem that you solve? What is the problem that your music solves for somebody else, right? Because it's like, if I want your song, if I connected with your song, I connected with your song in such a way that I see that it solves a problem in my life. Which means, because people don't buy your song because they like it, they buy it because they feel it. So what are they feeling in your song that is solving a problem in their life, even if it's temporary, right? So it's like, what problem does your song solve? What problem do you solve? Because when you know the problem that you solve, you become profitable, right? So let me also break this down to you. This series is not for you to become bigger, a bigger artist, to gain you a bigger stream of income, right? To give you a bigger audience and a fan base. I'm not working with bigger this year, right? I'm working with better, right? I'm trying to help you become a better creative, a better artist, a better producer, a better band, better at music, better at the music industry. I'm helping you to become a better artist, because if you become better, then you're going to get increase, right? You're going to become better when you think better, because people pay for solutions. That's why you have to understand the problem that you solve, because people pay for solutions, not for problems, right? So you're trying to get people to buy your song, but if you haven't shown them what solution your song gives them in their life, they're not going to want it, right? So we pay for electricity. Why? Because the problem is it's dark. So I need to pay my light bill so they don't cut off the light, right? Same thing with your song. You know what I'm saying? Whether it helps somebody become happy, closer to God, makes them want to fight, makes them want to go get paid, makes them lazy, makes them motivated. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what, and we're talking about too on a further down section about the atmosphere that your music creates too. You know what I'm saying? The experience that your music creates too. Because when you understand what the problem your music solves, that in itself, when you start putting all your music together and doing a set list and performing and everything like that, you create an atmosphere. People pay for that atmosphere and experiencing the atmosphere greater than they would just the song, right? So it's like, now you don't have to just charge them for the song. You can welcome people into your atmosphere and charge them to enter into your atmosphere, and charge them more money for them to experience your atmosphere than one song, right? So that is in it. You know what I'm saying? We have to understand our the problem that we solve. I also want to say that we want to understand us. Take some time to understand yourself as an artist. Who are you as an artist, right? What are things you're accepting? What are things that you're not? Understand what artist identity or brand identity. And we'll get into branding a little bit later on. But understand your identity. It was so funny. I remember, so back in the day, like I said, I was an artist, right? So I had a family. I come from a family of musicians, right? Everybody was playing a song. You know what I'm saying? The two things that going on in my house, that people love Jesus and they love to play music, right? So everybody played a song. My cousins were in the band. I won't mention the band's name, but they were very highly known throughout Detroit. They had a run, I think maybe a 4 or 5 year run. Phenomenal band. So I used to hang out with them all the time. And my homie Queese, I kick it with him even to this day. Shouts out to Queese Life, man. You're doing your thing. We used to sit down and just chop it up about music, right? I used to do that with all of them, right? But I would kick it with Queese. I remember it was one day I sat down with Queese, and I said, man, you guys gave a great show. And he was like, thanks, man. I said, what type of genre of music would you consider that? Because you guys were doing all types of genres out there on the stage. And then he was like, we coming up with a new genre. It's called no genre. And I was like, oh, so it's not country? It's not rock? It's not R&B, not gospel? He was like, no, man, it's no genre. Boom. You know, and I'm having fun, but he was like that. And I was like, oh man, right? I was like that, you know, I was like, oh, I can't believe it. This is blowing the mind, you know what I'm saying? You guys are innovators, you know, like, and so he was like, yeah, so I could, and I kid you not, the very next day, I came over his house because we used to all like hang out at my uncle's house and stuff like that. And I used to come over and he was over there and I used to like, yo, man, you know, what's up? You know, so he's like, man, everything good. And then I looked over and they had new merch. And on their merch, they said, we are R&B. And I was like, bro, you just told me that you wasn't a genre, you know? And then he said, Nate, we learned something. I said, all right, please say less, bro. You know what I'm saying? What did y'all learn, you know? And he said that if we don't label us something, we don't want to be a genre. But if we don't put ourselves in a genre and label us something, people will label us something. And we will run the risk of them labeling us the wrong thing. Right? And I thought, yep, there you go. Message, you know? And I thought that was so dope. And I never forgot that because it is the case that if you don't know who you are, people will tell you what they think you are. And this whole thing, or a part of this thing of being an indie artist, is teaching people who you are and how to listen to you, right? And so if you don't do that, you run the risk of losing fans and momentum and really reaching what you saw in your vision. Because other stuff like Apple Music and other things online that asks for you to be in a box, ask for you to be in a genre. And I say box too because we don't never want to be in a box as artists. We're always something different. It's like, okay, and we'll get to that in a minute. But when you don't do that, people will put you in a place where you can't get the reach that you desire, right? So that's why you have to understand who you are. You have to understand, you have to label yourself before other people label who you are. You have to understand that the problem that you do, you know what I'm saying? You have to be able to stare at your product and say, what can come out of this product? I always, and it's really crazy too, because when I give you these steps and stuff like that, it could feel overwhelming, right? But I always say, take some time and stare at, once you figure out who you are as an artist and what you want to be called and labeled and stuff like that, you look at your product and you say what this can be and where this can go. You have to set steps, right? I always say there's a difference between a dream and a vision. Like a dream is something that you have and it can be gone. But at the end of the day, you want to have a vision because visions have steps to create these things. We call them SMART goals, right? Being able to come up with goals that are like timely, that are attainable, that you can, that's strategic, you know, that you can reach, that you can measure, you know what I'm saying, that are relevant. SMART goals, right? You know, these are the goals that will lead you to your vision, right? So if you want this year to, at the end of this year, to be further than you were coming in, then you have to say, okay, I'm going to start at, and get specific, because the S is for specific, you know, specifically, I want to see my streams come up by 50%, you know, by May. You know what I'm saying? So you can do that. And how you can do that is you can look through your analytics and how you're going to do that, obtain that thing. It's like maybe you're gonna run ads, or maybe you're gonna hire a social media manager and you want to see 50% by that, and it's a good time frame. You know what I'm saying? So it's like all of these, that's how you're gonna reach a smart goal. You get very specific, you don't overshoot it, you make sure that it's relevant and obtainable within a time frame. Smart goals, right? That's what we call them, right? In the vision stage, you want to define the mission and you want to define the success. Define the win. You got to define the win. How do you know when you are successful? Right? That's super, super important. How do you know when you are successful? Because lots of times we will say that we are successful based upon other people's level of success, or compared to other people's reach. And you have to define it, because you are ultimately, I get that we're in a competitive world, you know what I'm saying? Music is a competitive sport. But at the end of the day, Andre 3000, Three Stacks said it best when he was saying, he was up there at, they were put into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he said, like, although we had a lot of competitors, we were really more competing with ourselves. And I thought that was dope, because at the end of the day, your biggest competitor is yourself. Yeah, you have other people doing the same thing as you're doing, but you just want to become better. Like I said, this whole thing is to help you become a better artist, not just a bigger artist. Because if you become better, you'll become bigger. You know what I'm saying? But if you never become better, you're just going to end up bitter and with missed opportunities, and forget about anything else becoming bigger. Okay, so define your win. What's the W? What are you okay with your success with? You know what I'm saying? Especially because we, as independent artists, we don't have major backing, and we don't have to submit to a record company. Because that's the thing about, like, we all want to be, signed and stuff like that. But then you got obligations. You know what I'm saying? They tell you what to do. They hold you to their standards and to their goals, not your goals. Right now, you can do it, however, whenever, your length, whatever your time frame. But when you are signed, you have to do it by them. I saw a lot of, when I was working on the record label or whatever, I saw a lot of artists who struggled to meet what our expectations was, and people got let go of. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's your backing. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of have to do with them, because it's like a record label. I always used to say with my my ex-business partner, I was like, a bank, a record label was a bank. You know what I'm saying? So they're giving you a loan. You got to pay back the loan, because, you know what I'm saying, if you don't, then there's repercussions, So yeah, you know what I'm saying? You want to be able to have those things in the vision statement, and you have to understand your win, your mission, your core values. So set this up, because like Pepsi, Nike, like they all these billion-dollar businesses, right, sit down and have these vision statements, because they know they can go only as far as where they see that they can go. Okay. So when you handle that, when you have all that, when you sit down, create that for your 2026, and you have the problem, the identity, the SMART goals, you define success, you have your mission, you have your core values going on, and your core values really tell people what you're about. We're talking about how to strengthen you as a business, because some of us, we don't conduct ourselves as a business. And when you don't, how are you going to get brand deals? How are you going to really sell yourself to any record label if that's where you want to go? You know what I'm saying? But how are you supposed to get other businesses that will help you if you yourself don't conduct yourself as a business? Because you are, yes, the product, but you're also the businessman. Okay. So the other thing that you have to do and know is the brand, right? So we always say, like I said before, brand and marketing. But I will say the market, and we'll get to that as well too. The market is what the sameness about you, right? The brand is the uniqueness about you, right? That's not good English, right? But that's good gospel. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what is the same part about you, And I think I always say too, like it is a really thing to like think about your uniqueness, because that's when you can be as unique as possible. And like, okay, I like, what I'm saying, gummy bears, and I like it so much that I wanted a cover of my next album to be nothing but gummy bears, what I'm saying, on there. I'm gonna call the album Welcome to Candyland or whatever, what I'm saying? Like, we like to pour that into our music, but I'm also saying, like, pour that into how people see you, because what is the brand, right? And it's so funny because I took marketing classes, and I was watching this other guy speak about branding, and he said it best. It's about how the world sees you, right? And sometimes we don't like that. We like putting it in our music. We like to wear our clothes. We like to, saying, have our own style and get out there and stuff like that. But we don't know how the world sees us as independent artists. And sometimes that can be tough, what I'm saying? Because maybe we have insecurities like all human beings, right? And we don't know how to flip it and turn it in such a way that it makes sense for us. So we just cover stuff up, and we're just like, I'm just going to do my music. It's like, no, but like I said before, you are the business, but you're also the product, right? So people are watching you, and people are going to buy from you based on what they see, because branding is what they see, is the cover of the book. And that's weird, because we grew up hearing all the time is what's in the inside, not on the outside, which is true. But when you come to business, people look on the outside before they look on the inside, right? And so maybe you're like, I don't look on the outside as good as my music feels on the inside. Okay, well, that's great. Let's work with that. You know what I'm saying? There's tons of way, because a lot of like branding is understanding your story. I just shared my story in the beginning, right? And I shared it so that I can open it up for you guys to connect with me, right? You're going to have to share your story all the time, right? The next leg of your journey, all the time, right? And this is the thing, plus the image that you can control, especially when you're not signed. If you're not signed to a label, you can control how you look, how you sound, and how you come across to people, right? And that's, but you have to see yourself how other people see you, because we can't conquer what we first don't confront. So we have to see how people see us, so then we can control the narrative. When I'm helping a client in their rollout and their 30-day release of content, I give them titles to make videos from, right? And so one of the biggest title I give them, and I tell them to create content behind, is why I should listen to you, right? And there's a lot of ways to create content, and we'll get into content clustering and what you need to have for your rollout, and what good titles get you more views and subscribers and followers, and we'll get into that, right? But I specifically give this title and have my clients, all of them, create this video so that you can help the narrative of who you are, for your brand, for your image. Because anybody who is trying to listen to your song will look at you first before they see it. Right? They were going to want to see an image first, right? And based upon that image, they're going to say, I'm going to listen. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm not. So when we create these videos on why should I listen to you, or why should I listen to your song, should I listen to your music, is to get in front of that thought that everybody who you are selling your song to is already thinking. They're already thinking, why should I listen to this person? So we create a video to help stir that and control that narrative, because you as an independent artist can control the narrative, right? So let's tell them, this is why you should listen to me. I know this, or I am that, or I say this, you know what I'm saying? And that's why. So we help them come to the point that we want them to come to, you know what I'm saying? Because it's about controlling the narrative. Okay, I can go over that like all day. But you want to do that, you know what I'm saying? So if we're in the branding, we're talking about our look. We're talking about our uniqueness of who we are and what makes us different. Even in that whole thing of like, it's just explaining what makes us different. Because if you're a new artist, we also do interview. We call them brand interviews for the same thing. We want to build with these interviews connectivity with the listener. You know what I'm saying? And then most times also I use them for artists who never been interviewed before to train them on like media. You know what I'm saying? So what to say, what not to say when you're in an interview, and how you're supposed to be conducting yourself to the world, how you're supposed to be talking and building up your social medias, you know what I'm saying, and brand interviews, right? And we do that on their rollout as well too. Also, when you think about branding is the consistent message. You as the product, when you leave your house or when you step on social media, you are sending a message. You are sending a message to everybody out there. You know, you have to think, what is the message I'm sending out to potential buyers? So before you make a post or before you step out your house, you need to be vibed. You know what I'm saying? You are the product, so you should be in every shape, form, or fashion looking like your product. You know what I'm saying? Every time you set up, every picture that you post on your Snapchat or your Facebook needs to look like your image, right? Now, if you are not, you know what I'm saying? If you don't care, you have to. If you don't want to take up the responsibility of always looking like an artist, then get a different social media page and have people on there. But if you are, you know what I'm saying, you have to be conscious of every post and every picture that you put out there, right? Because it is the image, right? So you can't be like, I'm going to the same pond that you fish in. You know what I'm saying? You can't disrupt that with just being lazy in, right? So here's the thing, right? Because I call it brand protection. I will have an artist take a look at their social media page, right? And the main page they use, let's say it's their Facebook page. That Facebook page needs to be, every time you say something, you post something, your image of it needs to be as you as an artist. So don't come on that page with your hair not combed. Don't post on that page you not looking like an artist every single time, because people are watching it. So one bad post or pic could decline a sale. That's the thing about it. Like, if you want somebody on your page to buy a song, they need to always see you as an artist, always hear you as an artist, right? So it's like, I had this one thing, I had an artist, he was going through a breakup. And so he was posting about his heart being broken and how he couldn't, he still loved her and blah, 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 right? And so somebody was like, why are you posting all that, Well, that was to lead up to a heartbreak song, right? So he posted pictures of him looking bad, or times he reminisced, or the things he did wrong. And you know what I'm saying? It was a rollout attempt, right? All the pictures, all the posts was leading up to Buy My Heartbreak Song on May 1st, right? And that's what you want to do. But you can't be out of image, out of vibe, you know what I'm saying, with your posts. If you do want to do those things, because some of us want to just be able to communicate with our family. We want to be able to post wherever we want to post. We want to be able to look how we want to look. Cool. Get a separate account, right? But let your main account never, and I've just said that over and over it, because I'm trying to work with y'all, and consistency, right? So these messages, these are the message. You want to be consistent with your message. You know what I'm saying? Just like how I'm doing with this, just how I'm using this whole thing of image and look, you know what I'm saying, with your brand. Protect your brand at all costs. And once again, be consistent with it. And once again, put your message, because you are sending out a message everything, every time you go out and everything you do. All right. I hope that is helping everybody. We get into it. I'm going to land the plane because we run out of time today. So I'm going to get ready to land the plane. But I want you guys to make sure that you're doing that so that you're protecting your brand, you know, at every aspect, because that's your money. And so many people were like, well, why aren't people buying my songs? It's because 2 weeks ago, you posted a picture of your hair not combed, with you having, you know what I'm saying, holes and stains in your clothes. And so that's how they saw you. So it's like if Marshall Matter or Kendrick Lamar did that, you wouldn't think they were artists. But every time you see a picture, every time you see Kendrick, he looks like an artist. You have to do the same thing. All right, I said I was going to stop, but I kept going, so I do apologize, because it's so important. Understanding what your color schemes are. I was at one client or a group. They were doing their rollout, and their color was red. Right, that was their group color, and so their whole project, we did it in black and red. And I'm saying everything we dropped, every image, a lot of their pictures and stuff like that was surrounded by, black and red, once again, because why? That was their company's color. You are a business, you are a company, but also when you do stuff like that, you get people's attention, because normally you don't see a bunch of stuff coming at one color frame, right? So that was also to bring attention, to bring awareness. At some point, we will go through the funnel that I truly believe that you need to have as an artist running your rollout. That's a different day. But brand colors, brand messaging, protecting, brand equity. Who are you compared to somebody else? Your uniqueness with it all. Everything you need to have a brand. So you want to, and we're going to get into the next 2 steps in another video, but just go over your notes, write down stuff if you have, and go over those things. And we are going to connect on the next video. But I'm glad you guys came by. I'm glad you guys came by to see me. I hope you feel elevated, and I hope all this helped. I am Nathan Driz Johnson, your personal marketing and branding specialist when it comes to this music thing. This is New Altitude Media, Flight Class, Flight School. Blessings.